Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at the worst team in England, the 6-1 FC Luton. We're going to take a look at the last 6 seasons and why people call them the worst team in England. But before we continue, I'd really appreciate if you hit the like and subscribe button, as we're trying to hit 250 subscribers before the end of 2025. But before we take a look at those 6 seasons, let's look at the backstory. The 6-1 FC Luton were founded in 1961 by current secretary and current owner Richard Everett, and they were named after the year of their founding. They initially joined the Luton and South Bedford League. Then, in 1972, they joined the Hellenic League. After spending one season there, they joined the Spartan South Midland League system, and they spent the rest of their history there. In their first season, they finished 6th out of 18 teams in Division 1. Then they got promoted to the SSFML Premier in 1981 after winning Division 1. In 1988, they got all the way to the SML Challenge Trophy final, which they played at home against Selby in front of 265 people, but did unfortunately lose. That game was their record attendance. They survived in the Premier Division before being relegated in the 1992-93 season. That season was also the last time they featured in the FA Vars, losing 6-0 away to Harpenden at Roehampstead Park. Then they got relegated again in 2002-03, seeing Division 2 for the first time in their history, and they currently stay there now. They won the league in 2008-09 but couldn't get promoted due to ground grading requirements. And after reading something Richard Everett had said to an interviewer earlier this week actually, there's only 3 teams currently in Division 2, the Spartan South Midland League, that can get promoted. Since then, they haven't finished at the top half of the table since 2016 and haven't got out of the bottom 3 since 2019. They played their entire history at Kingsway Recreation Ground, which is a very simple council facility in Luton, with a very basic clubhouse and very simple changing facilities. A bit of trivia about the clubhouse: it had actually suffered multiple break-ins, where people have broken in, stolen drinks, food, probably used electricity and water, and behind a signed football shirt hanging on the wall, there is actually a hole which the perpetrators had left. The ground is located just off the A505 in between Luton and Dunstable and has a 500 capacity, majority standing, with 25 seated, but it is covered and there's 50 covered standing areas too. It is bordered in with housing and has a very basic play park there. With the backstory out of the way, let's talk about their abysmal league positions. We have to start with the 18-19 season. The club finished 3rd from bottom, only ahead of Clean Slate FC, which have also now dissolved, who finished on just 3 points, and Trin Corinthians FC, who withdrew from the league, so technically they were 2nd from bottom. The 6-1 FC picked up 18 points, with 5 wins, 3 draws and 18 losses, and a minus 55 goal difference, scoring 36 and conceding 91. It's important to note that 6-1 FC had one of the best ever league starts, winning their first 2 games of the season. They then won just once in 10 games after that. They were 7 points behind the next team, Sarah FC, who finished on just 23 points. You'll notice Sarah FC come up a lot around. Their biggest loss of the season was a 10-0 home thrashing to second place team Old Bradwell United in front of just 15 people. They were knocked out of the League Challenge Cup 5-0 to Premier Division side Crawley Green. They did manage to beat Clean Slate 2-1 in Division 2 Cup away, but they did unfortunately lose in the quarterfinals 6-0 to Old Bradwell United. In the Beds County Cup, they lost 2-0 to Risley Sports in the first round, and in the final couple of the season, the Anagram Records Trophy, they lost 4-0 to Chipperfield Corinthians. Their highest league attendance was the final day against Pitstone Ivinghoe, and they came to Kingsway and beat 6-1 FC 7-2. That was in front of 41 people. The next season was significantly worse, although this season didn't even finish. The 2019-20 season was the beginning of the worst period in the 6-1 FC's history. The club didn't win a single game all season, and their only point was a 2-2 away draw to Sarah, which meant they didn't pick up a single point at home all season. That meant they probably had the worst home form in all of England. They finished on a minus 6-3 goal difference, which is one of their better goal differences in the last 5 years. They scored just 18 goals all season, with the most coming in a 6-4 home defeat to the United MK, in front of a crowd of just 4 people. With that being said, the highest end of the season was 40 on the opening day of the season, which was a 2-0 loss to Codicott. In the Beds Senior Trophy, they lost 7-0 to Division 1 side Sheffield Town and Campton, with 15 people in attendance. In the Anagram Records Trophy, they lost 7-0 away to Shenfield, who, fun fact, play at a school and yet still get more on average attendance than the 61 FC. In the Division 2 Cup, they lost in the first round, 3-1 on penalties after a 2-2 draw to Unite MK at the Irish Centre. In the League Challenge Trophy, they lost 4-0 away to FA Vars winners, Newport Pagnell FC. It's also integral to mention that during the winter months, the 61 FC do not play any midweek games, and they also bring back the kick-off times to between 2 and 2:15, and sometimes even 2:30. This is due to not having floodlights, but not for a lack of trying. The 61 FC have applied to the council multiple times to try and get floodlights at Kingsway Recreation Ground. And they even got funding together, but no matter how hard they try, the council just never seem to accept their proposals. The next season, only 5 games were played, so it's very unfair to judge the team off just 5 games and say they did terribly. But looking at previous seasons and previous results, we can kind of make a bit of a guess as to what the season would have ended. They finished on 0 points from their 5 games, losing all 5 and conceding 29 goals in that time and scoring just 3. They finished on minus 26 goal difference. They're 3 points off second bottom Mersey United, so this is one of their closest bottom to second bottoms. Their closest game was a 4-0 home loss to Berkhamsted Comrades FC, and their biggest deficit was a 7-1 away loss to Berkhamsted Raiders, and on the final game of the season, a 7-1 loss at home to Bovingdon FC. The game was also their highest end season, with it just being 29. The lowest was 21 at home to Old Bradwell FC. After the COVID seasons, the poor league positions continued into the 21-22 season, with the club finishing second bottom of the league, which is an improvement, but I do believe it was due to the capitulation of Tring Corinthians AFC. The 61 FC finished on a staggering 17 points, made up of 5 wins, 2 draws, and 21 losses. The goal difference always gets worse with more games played, but surprisingly, it didn't actually get too bad for the 61 FC, finishing just a minus 56 goal difference. They scored 26 and allowed in 76. They scored the most goals in a 4-3 away loss in the Bed Senior Trophy to Biggleswade FC reserves. The worst result was a 7-0 home loss on the second game of the season to Pitstone Ivy FC in front of 33 people. You can see attendances are starting to rise a little bit, and it's always good to see attendances gradually rising. We've already covered the Best Senior Trophy. Let's talk about the Gladwish Challenge Trophy, which is a new cup in the Spartans Midland League. They lost 6-1 away after leading 1-0 at half-time to Sheffield Town and Campton, who are now in the Premier Division. In the Division 2 Cup, they lost 2-0 at home to Tottenham in front of 23 people at Kingsway Recreation Ground. Their highest attendance was 53 in a 3-0 home win to 10th place team Caldicott FC, which also their record win for the season, and the lowest attendance was 8 at home to New Bradwell St Peter. This season was a major letdown. After a bad but not terrible performance last season, this season showed something terrible. The 61 FC finished second bottom of the league. Below them was Potton United Development, who resigned from the league, so technically they did finish bottom. The club finished on 7 points, 12 points off the next place Buckingham United. They won only twice this season and drew once, losing the remainder. Their 2 wins came against Tring Corinthians away, but they won 1-0. And in the reverse fixture, they won 2-0 in front of 12 people. They drew just once in a 1-1 draw to 8th place Sarah FC. The attendance numbers dropped this season, with the highest attendance being just 29 against Luton Town Development. The lowest was just 8 people at home to a 1-0 loss to Amesbury United. They also lost by double digits 6 times this season, which is staggering, because I've only ever known teams to maybe lose by double digits once in their history, maybe, or once in a season, once every 5 years, not 6 times in one season. The biggest loss was 13-0 away to Caddington FC, and they got walked over 2 times. They allowed Risborough Rangers to take all 3 points in the league, and in the Anagram Records Trophy, they allowed Toby FC to walk all over them because they either didn't bring a team or couldn't get a squad together. In the Gladbridge Challenge Trophy, they lost 5-1 at home to Tring Corinthians with just 12 in attendance. In the Division 2 Cup, they lost 6-0 at home to Amesbury United, with 492 still available in capacity. This season was a very big low point for the club and really does forecast the future for them. It's also very sad to see a big drop in attendance numbers. I got to see 61 FC for the first time in their 2023-24 season, when they travelled to 11th place Stony Stratford FC. And after being level at half time, they went on to lose 5-3. And in all honesty, they put up a very valiant performance. They just lacked that final end product that Stony Stratford possessed. And eventually, that did cost them. That was one of 23 losses the Sixth FC were handed that season, as they went on to pick up 21 points, but still finished bottom of the league. But they were only 5 points off second bottom Berkhamsted Raiders. The Luton side won 5 games, drew 6 and lost the rest. And this is their record amount of points since the 18-19 season where we started this video. Their record was a 4-2 away win to MK Irish Reserves. They were leading 2-0 at half time too, so making that one of the only games where they didn't actually go behind. This season was definitely a marked improvement as they didn't concede more than 6 goals in any game, making this one of the best seasons in terms of their defending. The biggest loss was a 6-0 away defeat to league runners-up Bovingdon FC. In the Gladbridge Challenge Trophy, they lost only on penalties after holding Berkhamsted Raiders to a 1-1 draw. In the Division 2 Cup, they progressed out of the first round for the first time in 3 seasons, beating MK Irish Reserves 2-0 at home, but did lose 1-0 away to eventual league champions and current Division 1 team AFC Welling. The highest attendance at Kingsway Recreation was 54, when Newport Pagnell Town Development. The lowest was in the second game of the season when Aston Clinton paid a visit and won 3-0 with just 10 people in attendance. This season was one of the best seasons for attendance figures for the 6-1 FC, with more than 30 people being at a game 6 time, and more than 50 being at the game twice, which is very impressive, especially at their level as well. Not many teams get more than 50. You can make a judgment this season got very unlucky with it being a very competitive league, and we can show this because they would have finished outside the bottom 3 in the 18-19 and 21-22 season with those current points. So I think they just got very unlucky with every other team around them doing just a lot better and levels just improving basically. As of writing, it's January 2025. So we're about halfway through the 24-25 season. And this season is a big letdown for the 6-1 FC, having played 15 games and still being on 0 points. Not marked a single point on the board. I have had the fortune of seeing the 6-1 FC twice so far this season, both in away games. I did a 2.5 hour walk to Stony Stratford Town FC and caught the opening game of the season, which after a competitive first half, although trading 3-0, they were put up in a good fight. By the time the final whistle was sounded, they had lost 8-0. And that was just like, from what I remember the season before, that is just not the same team. With striker Dan Woolley scoring 2 goals either side of the half. The second time I was lucky enough to see the Luton side was when they made the 24-minute drive to the Irish Centre to play MK Irish Reserves. And after a world-class free kick from 6-9's Carl Trussler, they capitulated and allowed MK Irish to score 3 goals within 10 minutes before the half. And after an own goal and a 6-second minute goal from MK Irish's Lolly Agbega, they took back the 5-1 loss to Luton. They're not as far gone as they think we are though. They're 7 points off the next team, which is Padbury Village FC. They've conceded double digits twice this season, once against top of the table, an unbeaten team, New Bradwell St Peter, who beat the 6-1 FC 12-0 at New Bradwell Recreation Ground. And the second time was a 10-0 away loss to Trin Corinthians FC just 2 weeks earlier. Their smallest loss was a 1-0 home loss to local rivals Callington in front of just 40 people. The record attendance was that game, as this season attendance numbers fell yet again. Kingsway Recreation are only seeing more than 30 people just 3 times so far this season. The lowest attendance was 3 people when yet again Aston Clinton travelled the 33 minutes to Kingsway Recreation and beat them 4-1. I don't quite know what it is about the 6-1 FC versus Aston Clinton home game, because Aston Clinton usually get about 50 people at home, and Kingsway, I don't get it. Nobody ever just turns out for, I suppose. But in the Gladbridge Challenge Trophy, they went to Sheffield Sports Club for the first time, and the 6-1 FC lost 9-0 to the Premier Division strugglers. The Luton side got a bye into the second round of the Division 2 Cup, and they got beaten 5-2 by Old Bradwell. For the first time in 5 years, 6-1 FC played in the Bedfordshire FA County Cup, where they travelled to Flitwick and put up a really good performance, but did eventually lose 4-3. This season so far has been a massive disappointment. But at the end of the season, I'll post an update on my Twitter. So if you want to see that update, make sure you go follow me and put notifications on. Looking forward, I don't really see things improving for 61 FC. I think they need to resign from the league at the end of the season because they can't get relegated. I think they need to start again, clean slate, in the Bedfordshire County Leagues. I can't even begin to comprehend how after some of these losses, how the players lace up and go again week after week after week. I do genuinely wish them the best. This video is not meant to dog on them and hate on them, as they're clearly in a very rough situation, especially with ground grading and burglaries. But, just watching them, they seem like a very emotional team. Some players especially, from what I've seen, allow one or two poor refereeing results to get their head down and affect their whole game, which is a poor mentality. But I do empathise, because if I was losing 12-0, 10-0, I would probably have a very pessimistic mindset. I know nobody wants to voluntarily go and watch a team get hammered, but I would promote you to go and watch them if you're in Luton, just to see what they're like. Maybe buy a player a beer and just ask if they're okay, maybe. Just give them support they clearly lack, because I'd love to see them at least claw their way out the bottom three and maybe get their way into even just the bottom 5 would be a big achievement for them. But I don't think that'll happen for a while, as the success they had 16 years ago was 16 years ago. I don't think it's going to return for them, unfortunately. We are also going to talk about their reserve team, which has fallen on equally hard times. The Luton 61 FC reserves play in the Bedfordshire Counties League Division 3, but we're going back to 21-22 when they were playing in Division 2. That season was a terrible way to start their life as a club, really. The reserves finished bottom of the league on just 9 points, winning once, drawing 6 times and losing 17. Much the same as the first team. They conceded 94 and finished on a minus 68 goal difference. Their biggest loss was 10-0 away to third place team Renhold FC. Their only win was a 1-0 win at Kingsway Recreation Ground against AFC Bedford United. The goal scorer was the same player who pegged back MK Irish reserves 3 years later, Cole Trustler. They did also play in the Bedfordshire FA Intermediate Cup, beating Brace Phoenix 2-1 away in the first round before playing away at Renhold, and we know what happened there, as I've always talked about it. I don't really know what happened to 61 FC reserves, but they were deducted 10 points and were kicked out of the league after breaching Rule 20E 4 times and Rule 10L/1018M. This meant all results were voided and any upcoming games were cancelled, and they were forcibly relegated. Next season they were placed in Division 2 South of the Bedfordshire Counties League system, and again had a very poor start to the season, winning just one game. And that one game was a 2-1 away win to Stopfold Junior FC. That was their only win of the season. This meant 61 FC reserves have not won a home game in their history up until this point, leaving them with possibly the worst home record in all of England. So, you have the main team that has one of the worst home records in all of England. You have the reserves team that has one of the worst home records in all of England. In the Jubilee Cup, they lost 7-0 away to Stopsy United. They only lost by double digits twice that season. The first one coming on opening day to FC Haynes, where they got hammered 11-0. And the second time was away to Western Recreation FC, where they lost 14-0, with Charlie Robert Scott scoring 4 goals. After suffering their second relegation in their short history, they find themselves in Division 3. And it's actually going pretty good for them this season, finding themselves in 6th place out of 13 teams, which means they're in the top half. They're currently on 14 points, having won 5 and just drawn once and losing 5. They have a point deducted for another breach of Rule 20E. Their opening 3 games were a travesty though, allowing Kemp's Athletic to walk over them, losing 10-1 then 10-0 away. But I've only lost 3 times since. Their biggest win was 7-3 against 8th placed Wilstead FC. They did play in the Bedfordshire FA Cup, losing 5-1 penalties away to Dunstable Town Cricket Club FC, holding them to a 2-2 draw. And they only got to that point after beating Elster Abbey 3-2 at home in the County Cup. It's really hard to do predictions for a reserve team. But what I will say is they've clearly found their level, which is really good to see. A 6-1 FC related side actually thriving, and they're doing well in their league. Granted they are mid-table, but that is a lot better than minus 10 points, 9 points. So hopefully the first team can poach a few players, and hopefully that'll improve them. But I wish the reserves all the best, and I really hope they do well this season. I really hope they do well in the future. Maybe they'll be playing in a similar league soon, who knows. And finally, we're going to get on to 6-1 FC Sundays, who, along the first team and the reserves, also play at Kingsway Recreation Ground and have actually won silverware. So without dwelling on too much, let's start their journey in 2022-23. They started their life in the Luton District and Luton Sunday League, where they finished second bottom on 10 points and a minus 24 goal difference, only winning 3 games. Unfortunately for them, they didn't get to fulfil 2 of their fixtures, so with those points they potentially could have been as high as 5th. They did have 2 blowout losses though, like all teams kind of do. They lost 6-0 away to Charlton FC, and the next week's lost 7-0 at home to FC Highwood. In the Jack Jones League Cup, they lost 3-1 at home to Heath FC, and in Division 3 Cup they lost 4-1 away to Bushmead FC. The Sid Clear Memorial Cup followed a similar trend, losing 2-1 to EB Lions AFC. This season was the first time any 6-1 FC side has won silverware this century. So since 2000, this is the only season where 6-1 FC have claimed silverware. As a Sunday side won Division 3 by 12 points, finishing on 43 points, only losing and drawing 1 game. The next season was EB Lions AFC on 31 points. Their only loss was a 1-0 away loss to MA Rovers. They weren't so far in the cups though. When the Deacon White Europa Cup, they lost 7-0 away to Manor FC, which is blowout considering they won the league. Although in Division 3 Cup they got all the way to the semi-final before losing 6-1 at home to Mar Rovers. They were 180 minutes for a League Cup double, but no other 6-1 team has won silverware, and then they could have done a League Cup double. That's ridiculous. This season definitely created a buzz around the 6-1 FC, and it's a big shame that the first team and reserve team couldn't emulate any of this kind of success. But a big well done to the Sunday side, as this is a massive achievement for them. This current season has definitely been a test for the Sunday side, playing in Division 2 for the first time, and they were joined by fellow Spartan South Midland Football League Sunday team, Crawley Green FC Sundays. This season the Luton team found themselves 8 out of 10 teams, having played 9, most of any team in the division so far. They have won 2, drawn 1 and lost 6. Unfortunately, they have had an utter demolition, losing 12-0 away to DTCC FC in the Jack Jones League Cup. In the league, they got smashed 7-0 with third place AC Cardoso of Reserves FC. They lost in the first round of the Sunday Junior Cup after beating Hatters United 2-1 on penalties, drawing 1-0 at home. As of the time of writing, let's play the Division 2 first round fixture away at Hatters United, but hopefully they can win this one, progressing to the second round. This Sunday side, I believe, has big things ahead, as they have the brightest future probably of any of the 6-1 FC teams. I think they'll struggle for the rest of the season, but I think in 2 to 3 years they'll get promoted again and slowly work their way up the Sunday League ladder, and hopefully the first team can poach a few players and improve them. But I wish them all the best, and in their first round of Division 2 Cup, I hope they see nothing but success for the rest of their season. Thank you very much for watching this very long and in parts depressing video. And if you enjoyed this one, you'll definitely enjoy my video about a Scottish team who also couldn't stop losing, called Scurry FC. And that will be linked below, along with my Twitter and 6-1FC socials. But on that note, like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.